Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here, and it's time now for the Orns Friday focus on Watford against Brighton at the Vic tomorrow. A game that, of course, we know of its importance and what it means. Watford taking on Brighton. A Brighton side, by the way, actually, and I misspoke about this in the podcast episode most recently. A Brighton side who do play well away from home. They have, in their 11 away trips, lost just once this season in the Premier League. Seven draws and three wins. That is the Brighton away record for a team, Brighton, who have lost just four times in the Premier League. They are the draw specialists, but to lose only four games in the Premier League to this point is a really impressive thing. And so Watford cannot take Brighton for granted tomorrow at the Vic. Watford will have to play well and score more than once. I think that Watford now are due to break out. They've not scored any goals in almost a full month, and only once this calendar year have Watford scored in the Premier League. That's right, just one goal, and that goal came back on January 15th against Newcastle United at St James's Park. So I would think that with Watford not scoring any goals since then, none in the Norwich game, none against Burnley, and none at West Ham, they are due to break out. And what better person to help with that than Ismail Assar, who I don't think will start tomorrow. I think that'll be really unlikely, but I do think he'll have a role to play off the bench in this one as Roy Hodgson gets his first home game in charge in the Premier League of Watford. This will be a warm welcome for Roy and Ray Lewington as well as they return to the Vic for the first time, this time as Watford men. Both of them, of course, Ray Lewington used to be the Watford manager back in 2002 through 2005. The sentimentality will soon be out the window here. Watford must get down to business tomorrow, and I think they will score some goals. I think they'll score at least three. If you look at the games that Watford have won this season, especially the ones at home, in all respects, they've scored at least three goals. They scored three goals against Aston Villa. They scored four goals against Manchester United. And those are the two games that they have won at home, and on the road, they've scored at least three times as well. Of course, the game at Norwich early in the season when they won 3-1, and of course, the game at Everton when they won 5-2. So I think Watford tomorrow, look for them to score a number of goals. I think it's going to be at least three goals to break out of this goal drought that they have in their forward play. Now, I think the forward play has to be more dynamic and much more electrifying and adventurous and aggressive tomorrow because you are at home now. You're not playing against Manchester City. You are playing against a team that can sit back, but is also very good on the counter attack and can be quite swift. And they'll have Danny Welbeck. In fact, all of their players are available. All their important players are available. Leandro Trossard returns for Brighton, and also Alexis McAllister is back for them as well, coming back from a bout of COVID. And Danny Welbeck will also be in that lineup as well, most likely in that game, probably starting tomorrow for Brighton. So we'll welcome back Danny Welbeck and say thank you for the things he did for Watford. Certainly was an asset to them in the brief time he was here. Was marred by injury for him, scored that wonderful goal against Norwich back in 2020. That's what he'll be remembered for, really, at Watford. But after we applaud him, it's back to business and down to business for Watford because this game, of course, we know of its significance. 3 points, please. That is all we are focused on tomorrow. So it's down to business, nose to the grindstone. Expect a good, solid game here. It's going to be a very competitive one, I would think. And Roy Hodgson is going to set that team up probably at 4-4-2 once again. I expect that. I do think, though, he's going to be moving some pieces around in midfield, and I do believe that the midfield needs to be a bit more punchy, a little bit more fluid. I had suggested during the week that they should put Carlu and Sarr on either side of the middle two. I think that they can drop back and defend. I think both of them can. I know that Sarr has defended pretty well in the past, and perhaps it may seem a little bit porous to do that. But I think that Watford have to trust in their back line because their back line now has been well established now in these first two games under Roy Hodgson. So I do think that they can drop back both Carlu and Sarr if they have to defend. And I think that's exactly what the game plan should be. I think if you put both of them on either side of the wings, they can actually move up the pitch pretty quickly, add some pressure on those Brighton defenders. And I think the ball can come through the midfield through Sissoko or Lauza, either one of them. Lauza can hold, Sissoko can roam forward and find an outlet pass to one of those wingers who've got pace. And then, of course, the two men up top, I would love to see João Pedro and Emmanuel Dennis together. Now, look, there's no target man in that way, and there's no one to hold up the ball in that way between the two of them. But I think Dennis does hold up the ball fairly well and plays that ball to feet well. So I think that the game actually to not have a big target man would suit Watford to just keep that ball moving through the wings and up the channels. Sani Kamara, of course, has also put in a lot of good crosses going forward as the left back who has really ingratiated himself with Watford fans. And I think that you're going to see a lot of different things tomorrow on the Watford side of things. But that defense has got to stay disciplined as it has been under Roy Hodgson, composed and calm. And I think Josh King has to be on the bench. I do think that Tom Cleverley has to be on the bench. I think that Kuchka has to be on the bench. And I think Kayembe has to be on the bench at least initially, because I think that Kayembe can come into a game like this later on and bring his brand of experience as well. I think that that would be the appropriate thing for Roy Hodgson to do. But of course, I'm not managing the team. He is, and I'm sure that he has a few things up his sleeve along with Ray Lewington. Now, Graham Potter, the Brighton manager, was seen at West Ham the other night scouting that particular game, scouting Watford particularly. So he will have seen a few things, but I expect that Roy Hodgson will vary things a little bit against Brighton, who, again, while they do play very well away from home, I mean, it said just one defeat away from home in the Premier League this season. And actually, I think they're 6 unbeaten in the Premier League as well away from home. That is quite impressive. So Watford cannot take Brighton for granted. They have to take the game to Brighton. And I think an early goal for Watford would settle things down, and then they can really fortify the back and keep things solid. But I do think that Watford will need to score at least 2 goals tomorrow to win the game. I think they'll need to score 3. Ultimately, it would be great if they can, because as I said, just one league goal in this calendar year of 2020, as I said, at Newcastle. We shall see what happens tomorrow. Watford versus Brighton. It should be quite a game at the Vic. This has been the Orns Friday Focus.